Hi everyone, Sydney Rock back again, back in the bathroom. I'm back from Colombia. I have surprisingly little to say about the trip. I really enjoyed myself. Sadly, the rest that I accumulated over the last week and a half, I lost them over the last 2 days. I'm on very little sleep over the last couple days. As a matter of fact, and I'm really disappointed with this, I wanted to shave yesterday. I actually shaved without setting this thing up. I could barely put a sentence together, so I decided to, fuck it, I'll just do it tomorrow. The other thing is, when I shaved last night, my beard was barely shorter than my hair is, so for the time being, I'll be doubling down on the essential oils. So today's lather will be Old Faithful plus lavender. So what I would like to talk about today is a test that I've been using for the last several years. I think it's a really simple principle that you can apply, and if you have the reflex to do it, it can save you a lot of time and energy. And before I go on, I'd like to put a floating disclaimer out there, because I realize this might be the second time in like 2 or 3 videos that I've referenced to this guy. I just want to give a tip of my hat to Stefan Molyneux and his body of work. He's been a great positive influence on my thinking, and I don't want to start giving him credit every other time I mention something that was influenced by his work, either directly by listening to it or indirectly by listening to someone who was influenced by his work. So yeah, when you hear me say things like stuff that I picked up over the years or something I heard recently, it's a safe bet to think that I got it from Free Domain Radio or some kind of podcast or video. He's obviously not the only person I listen to, but referring to his work like twice in 3 videos, I think, it's kind of a clue that it's time to just put it out there. So what I would like to talk about is the mirror test. And this is something I haven't explicitly heard him refer to it as that, but it's a really simple concept that, in short, the way it works is when you hear someone advancing a rule or a claim or something, the very first person to apply that rule to is the person making the claim. And yes, I do see the irony about blogging about the mirror test into a mirror. But that being said, I think that if you just take the time to look at the person that you're conversing with and hold that mirror in front of him or her, that it can save you some time. And I'll give you a really simple example. In short, 9 times out of 10, like in my experience, almost all the time, overwhelmingly, when someone says something along the lines of "you're selfish," that person fails the mirror test, in the sense that they themselves are being selfish and are basically throwing that adjective out at you in order to get you to self-attack. I'll elaborate more on that in a second. So the way the selfish thing works, before I go on, depending on context, and this is why sometimes it's confusing for me when I think about it, depending on the context, sometimes passing or failing the mirror test can mean different things, or sometimes you want to pass, sometimes you want to fail. It's really a context thing, but the principle remains the same, where when someone is making a claim in behavior or almost anything, to start with the person making the claim. So let's go back to the selfish argument, let's call it. So the layman's definition of selfishness is when you put your desires and ambitions in front of those of other people. So, the way this works, or the way most people fail the mirror test when they're throwing out this adjective of "you're selfish" at you, is that typically the context in which the person is throwing that out is that you're behaving in a way that the person doesn't want you to behave in. And the reason, and this should be obvious to most of you by now, but I'll still walk you through it. The reason why this person fails the mirror test is because the person wants you to behave in a certain way, and obviously you're behaving the way you want to behave if you're not being coerced. Why the fuck would you do something you don't want to do if you're not being coerced? So, you, by behaving the way that you are putting your own desires in front of whatever the person wants you to do. But by throwing out, "you're selfish," the person is, let's make her a woman. Let's make her a woman. So the person is, she's putting her desire for you to engage in behavior X in front of your own desire to engage in behavior Y. So basically, in the context, and again, this is true most of the time, specifically in this example, when someone is telling you that you're being selfish, that person fails the mirror test in the sense that I want behavior X, you want behavior Y. So, in order to subjugate your desire to behave in way Y or whatever, I will throw out the, for lack of a better term, ad hominem, selfish, because it kind of implies that's a bad thing, in order for you to say, "Oh my God, sure don't want to be selfish. I mean, I've always been told that you got to be generous and think of others, so I better do what this person wants me to do, because sure wouldn't want to be selfish." But by just applying that test to the person making the claim, you can see that that person is kind of doing the same thing, and is kind of doing it in an underhanded way by getting you to self-attack rather than actually persuade you to engage in the behavior she wants you to engage in. So as you can see, by simply holding the mirror up in front of the person, you can save yourself a lot of wasted energy. And depending on the person's reaction, if you point out to her that she's failing her own damn test, you might know whether it's even worth pursuing that thread of conversation or not. That I don't think I'll have time to elaborate much on that in this video, but when someone tries to bullshit you and you call her on it, I'm still using the woman as an example. You know, no, let's make her a man now. Let's make him a man. So when someone tries to bullshit you and you call him on his bullshit, the reaction that he has after that tells you a lot about whether this guy is worth dealing with, in this thread at least. So, if this dude says, "Oh, you're selfish, you should do what I want," and you point out, well, you're being selfish right now, you point out to this dude, you're being selfish right now by pointing that out to me. Someone, in my view, who is worth continuing this thread of conversation with will admit it and say, "Oh gee, I guess I didn't realize that. Let me see if I can come up with another approach to convince you." Whereas, if this dude is being a manipulative dick, he's gonna double down and say, "Oh well, I'm you know, me, it's not about me, I'm doing it for such and such person," because sometimes people will throw out the selfish thing because of their desire to get you to satisfy someone else's desire, still doesn't void the whole mirror test that's being failed in that moment. But it's a nice little underhanded way of doubling down on the manipulation that this guy is engaged in. So yeah, this took a surprisingly long time to get into. I really hope that helps. Before I let you go, I just want to point out, Bobanam, today's aftershave. So yeah, before I let you go, I also want to point out that the mirror test isn't only useful in one-on-one situations. It also is useful when the person is making broad statements about a group of people that, let's keep him a man. So when this guy is making a statement about a group of people that he is a member of. So if an example I thought of just before I hit record is, if I was to make the statement, blacks are poor communicators. And I'm saying this in front of a mirror, which is funny. But I'm clearly failing the mirror test if I make the statement that blacks are poor communicators. So that's just a quick example. So I hope that helps. I don't really have much to add, so thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe on YouTube. That would really help me out a lot. And I'll see you in the next shave. I'll see you soon. Take care.